part we could not get to in class. We're going to write the equation of the hyperbola, and we're given the foci and the vertices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and graph this, because I'm a very visual person. I'm going to start with the vertices. There's one at 0, 4, which is up here, and one at 0, negative 4, which is down here. The reason this is important is it tells me that the hyperbola goes in this direction. So when we go to write our equation, that tells me that y is first. So remember, it's going to go y minus something squared minus x minus something squared equals 1. Okay, so two things we need to find is the center and then the numbers underneath here. The center, looking at it, is obviously at 0, 0, so that's going to go here and here. Okay, I can find the number under the y if I count, and I know that I went up 4. So underneath the y should be 4 squared. Notice I don't know what the sides of the box look like, and I can't really estimate. So I need another piece of information that's going to help me figure out what goes under the x. Okay, what we're going to turn to is that we're going to see that the foci is up here, and we can find the distance from the center to the foci, or focus in this case, and that's our c. So we can use the equation c squared equals a squared plus b squared for the hyperbola. And if you notice, this distance c is just 4 rad 5. So we should have 4 rad 5 quantity squared equals, I'll just call this a squared because it doesn't really matter because we're adding. So I'll go 16, or 4 squared, plus b squared. When you square this, you're going to square the 4, which is 16. You're going to square the radical 5, which is 5, equals 16 plus b squared. Okay, subtracting the 16, well, you get 80 actually, equals 16 plus b squared. And when you solve for it, you get that b squared is equal to 64. So that goes under here as b squared. So the final answer in most simplified form is y squared over 16 minus x squared over 64 is equal to 1. If we look at the next problem, it's a similar situation, but the foci and vertices this time are going across. So let me go ahead and plot the vertices. Here's one at 2 rad 2, here's a vertex, and here's one at negative 2 rad 2. Again, the importance of that is it tells me that the hyperbola goes in the sideways direction, which also tells me that when I go to write my equation, the x is in front. So the equation should start out as x minus squared over minus y minus squared over equals 1. Looking at this again, the center looks like it's at 0, 0, so that's going to go there. And I do know the distance underneath the x is 2 rad 2. So I can take that, put it here, and square it. We'll simplify that later. Same situation as before. I don't know what the box really looks like, and I can just estimate. But I do know that I have the focus at 3, 0. Here's the focus. So I can find the distance from the center to the focus to be c. So our c squared here equals a squared plus b squared. Our c squared is 3 squared, which is 9, equals a squared. So now if we square this, we square the 2, and we square the rad 2. So squaring the 2 is 4, squaring the rad 2 is 2, plus b squared. So you can see that this is 9 is equal to 8 plus b squared. So b squared equals 1, which we'll put down here. So the final answer is going to go x squared over 8 minus y squared over 1 is equal to 1 for the hyperbola. Last problem we'll look at is if it's shifted. So I'm going to graph this, and to save time I'm going to pause the podcast and just draw the graph. So here's the graph of the hyperbola with all the points labeled. Now it's going sideways so that I know that my equation is going to start out with an x minus, and then it's going to have y minus as second, equals 1. Okay, so the question again is to find the center. If you look at, it's the midpoint between 0, 2, and 7, 2. So obviously, it's going to be something 2. The midpoint between 0, 2, and 6, 2. The midpoint between 0 and 6 is going to be 3, so your center is 3, 2, which will go in these spots. Again, to find the numbers under the x, I know that from 3, 2 to 6, 2, that distance is 3, so under the x is 3 squared. I know the distance from the center to the focus is 4, so I can use 4 squared is equal to 9 plus b squared, or 16 is equal to 9 plus b squared, and that you'll get that b squared is equal to 7, which will go in there. So the final answer to this is going to be x minus 3 squared over 9 minus y minus 2 squared over 7 equals 1.